My name is Maya. I'm 30 years old. I live in a city that never quite felt like home, but at least here, I'm invisible on purpose. Every morning, I water my plants, make coffee strong enough to stun a bull, and walk to my office, 2 blocks from my apartment. I'm the CEO of a tech logistics firm I co-founded 8 years ago. We work with major brands, quietly solving their shipping and inventory problems before the world even knows they exist. But you wouldn't know that if you met my family. To them, I'm just the quiet one, the girl who never talked back, the one who didn't need attention or praise. Growing up, I was background noise to their celebration of my younger brother, Jordan. He was the golden child, loud, charming, athletic. He once got a Most Improved trophy in high school, and my parents framed it. I graduated college 2 years early, and they forgot to show up to the ceremony. They always said I was too serious, too private, too hard to understand. But the truth is, I wasn't hard to understand. They just never cared enough to try. So I stopped trying too. I built my company while they thought I was just doing temp work. I moved into a condo I designed myself while they assumed I was renting a 1-bedroom. And every Christmas, I sat across from them while they praised Jordan for buying a new car. One I actually helped finance behind the scenes. Because of course, when Jordan needed help starting his business, they came to me. Just a little loan, Maya. He's trying so hard. It was never a loan, it was an expectation. A duty. I kept my head down and paid for things. Their plumbing when the pipes burst. Their mortgage when they fell behind. Even their weekend vacation once, just because Mom needed to feel like someone cared. I cared. But it was never enough. Because I wasn't loud about it. Because I didn't need to be seen. That was. Until the night of my father's retirement party. I wasn't invited. Not officially. I found out about it from a cousin's Instagram story. A boomerang of my family toasting with champagne in a ballroom I had unknowingly paid for. I remember sitting on my couch, barefoot, wearing a hoodie, holding a pizza box. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Hey Maya, the heat's acting up again. Can you handle it?" "No. How are you?" No mention of the party. Just the usual request. And I looked at the photo again. Jordan at the center, arms around our parents, grinning wide. Behind them, the venue name etched on the glass wall. It was the exact one I'd put a down payment on months ago for a corporate gala that never happened. Because I canceled it when my team got sick and used the funds to help someone in need. Turns out, the someone was them. I set down my phone. I sat still for a long time. And then I decided something. If they only saw me as quiet, maybe it was time they learned what silence can really do. I didn't answer Mom's text. Not that night. Not the next morning. I knew what she meant by handle it. The heating bill. It always came to me not because it was mine, but because I had paid it so many times the utility company assumed I lived there. I didn't. I hadn't in over a decade. So I logged into the account. The balance was past due. Again, $239.57. I hovered over the Pay Now button like I had done 100 times before. And then I closed the tab. Instead, I opened another browser window. Then another. Then 6 more. Gas, electric, water, Wi-Fi, cell phone family plan, the backup security system. All in my name. All auto-paid. All unacknowledged. And all about to disappear. One by one, I canceled every service. Clicked every red button. Got every confirmation email. I paused at the last one. The Wi-Fi. I remembered how Jordan once bragged that their house had the best fiber optics in the neighborhood. He didn't know I negotiated the deal myself. Didn't know it was under Maya Tech Logistics LLC. Didn't even know I could shut it off with a single click. I clicked. Service termination confirmed. Then I sat back. The silence around me felt louder than ever. Not angry, just final. That evening, my phone rang. It was Jordan. I didn't pick up. He called again. And again. Then a text popped up. "Yo, the Wi-Fi's out, and Dad's yelling. Did you forget to pay or something?" I stared at it, then typed slowly. "No, I didn't forget." I hit send. 3 dots appeared, then stopped. Then nothing. A minute later, a group text came in. Family group chat. The one I was never active in, but was always left in, just in case they needed something. Mom, honey, we're having some outages. Can you check what's wrong? Dad, power's out. Jordan says you manage these accounts. Fix it ASAP. Jordan. Guys, chill. She's probably busy. Maya? I said nothing. Instead, I walked over to my balcony. The sky was dark. The city glowed below. And somewhere in the suburbs, my family was sitting in a house I'd funded, trying to figure out why it suddenly felt like 1993 inside. I thought about the last time they said thank you. I couldn't remember. I thought about the last time they asked me how I was. Still nothing. They were so used to me being quiet, they never thought to wonder what else I was keeping to myself. They didn't know I owned the house. Didn't know the deed had changed hands years ago when Dad needed a loan and couldn't qualify. Didn't know he had signed it over to me to keep it in the family. They forgot. I didn't. The next morning, my inbox was full. 12 unread messages, 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all from family, all saying the same thing, just in different tones. Urgent, confused, commanding, desperate. I listened to the first voicemail. It was Mom. Maya, sweetheart, your father is losing it. The utilities are down, the alarms won't stop beeping, and we can't even call the technician because the line's dead. Can you please just handle it like always? Then Dad's voice came next. This isn't funny. If this is about the party, grow up and fix it. You're not a child anymore. Then Jordan. Maya, what's going on? They're freaking out. Did something happen? I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, not smiling, not crying, just still. Because this wasn't about the party. It never was. This was about a lifetime of being invisible while keeping everyone else afloat. And now, they were just learning how to swim. I opened my secure folder, pulled up the property deed. It was digital, stamped, dated, signed, 5 years ago, when Dad's business collapsed and he nearly lost the house. I had wired the money before sunset. No questions asked, no demands made. Just one condition: he add my name to the deed. He had. I never removed his. But over the years, I became primary. I paid the taxes. I funded the maintenance. I hired the contractor when the roof nearly caved in. I even covered the property insurance, the premium kind that no one ever noticed. In every legal sense, that house wasn't his. It was mine. And for 5 years, I let them live in it. For free. No rent, no strings, just silence. Because they were family. Because I thought it would be enough. But enough is never enough when no one sees you. I drafted an email. To Dad. Subject: regarding the property. Body: Hi Dad. I hope you're well. Given recent events, I've decided to reevaluate all active agreements involving the property at 412 Hawthorne Lane. Effective immediately, all expenses tied to the house will need to be managed by the residents. I will no longer fund or oversee services moving forward. Attached is a copy of the original deed for your reference. Let me know if you'd like to discuss a formal lease agreement starting next month. Best, Maya. I attached the PDF. Hit send. Then I made coffee. And waited. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. I let it buzz until it stopped. Then I walked to the window and looked out. The world hadn't ended. The sky was still blue. And for once, I wasn't their lifeline. I was just Maya. The quiet one. The one they thought they could ignore. Until now. It didn't take long. That same afternoon, Dad showed up at my office. Unannounced. Uninvited. Unaware that security in my building doesn't let just anyone walk in. My assistant buzzed me. There's a Mr. Delgado in the lobby. Says it's urgent. I told her to let him wait. Not out of spite, but because I wanted to see how long he could sit on the other side of control. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. I finally stepped into the elevator and met him in the lobby. He stood when he saw me. Still wearing the same coat from years ago, the one Mom always said made him look respectable. Maya, he said, voice tight. We need to talk. I nodded once. We can, but not here. I led him to the small conference room down the hall. Glass walls, minimalist table, 2 chairs. He looked around like he was in a foreign country, because in many ways, he was. He didn't know this building was mine, didn't know I purchased the entire 5th floor last year, Didn't know the company he used to call Maya's side hustle had grown into a national partner with logistics contracts in 38 states. He didn't know anything, and I was done volunteering information. He sat across from me, hands clenched, eyes sharper than usual, but less steady. "Maya," he started, "what is this? Some punishment for not inviting you to a party?" I tilted my head. "No, this is me stepping away from being your unpaid caretaker." He opened his mouth. I raised a hand. "I covered that house, its systems, and its bills for 5 years, without anyone asking how I was managing. Not once." "You never said you needed anything," he snapped. "Exactly," I said. "I didn't say anything. And still, you assumed I'd always show up. That's the problem." He shifted, the edge of authority dulling. "You can't just take the house, Maya. That's not how this works." I reached into my folder, pulled out a printed deed, laid it on the table. "That's exactly how this works." He stared at it, quiet for the first time in years. Not angry, not yelling, just processing. "You think this proves something?" he asked. "It proves everything," I said. We sat in silence. Not the awkward kind, the revealing kind, the kind that peels back decades of pretending. He finally exhaled, long, heavy. "She's scared, you know," he muttered. "Your mom. The power, the noise, the calls. She doesn't understand any of it." I nodded slowly. "She doesn't have to understand it, but she has to respect it." He didn't reply, just looked at the deed again, then at me, like for the first time he was seeing someone he never knew lived in his house. "She always said you were quiet," he said. I stood up. "I still am. But now, the silence is yours too." Dad didn't say goodbye when he left the building, just walked out with the paper in his hand and decades of entitlement dragging behind him. I didn't watch him go. I didn't need to. By the time I returned to my office, my phone had already lit up again. This time, it was Jordan. Back to texting. "Did you really just serve Dad the deed like that? What's your endgame here?" I didn't respond, because I didn't need an endgame. I already won by walking away. Later that evening, I received another text. From Mom. "Maya, this is all too much. I don't know what you're doing or why, but this isn't you. You're better than this." "Better than what?" "Daya, padaya. Holding people accountable?" "Daya. Not breaking under guilt?" "Daya. Setting boundaries?" "Ease." I didn't respond to that either, but her words stayed with me. "This isn't you." Funny how people always define you by how useful you are to them. The next morning, the family group chat blew up. Jordan again. "This power struggle is ridiculous. Mom's crying every night. Just fix it, Maya. Fix it." Always the fixer. Always the fallback plan. But something had changed. This time, the silence wasn't passive, it was power. Deliberate. A week passed. No more calls. No more texts. The utilities stayed off. I had removed my payment profiles permanently. I'd even unsubscribed from the home security alerts that used to ping my phone. Then something interesting happened. I received an email. Subject, maintenance request, Unit 412. From Rent Ease Property Management. My heart froze for a second. Then I remembered I had delegated full property authority to a third-party firm, a backup plan I set up years ago in case I ever stepped away. The email detailed an emergency call from the residents. Broken HVAC, water heater failure, and a minor roof leak. They had tried calling me. They didn't know they were now tenants. Tenants with no lease, tenants with no rights. I called rentees, confirmed I was the owner, confirmed the maintenance fees would not be covered by me, confirmed I wanted official notices sent. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the laptop screen. I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me, not because she had changed, but because for the first time, she was in control. Later that night, Jordan showed up at my condo. He buzzed the front door like a man on a mission. I watched from the camera. He looked angry, but beneath that, confused, desperate. I picked up the intercom. "Yes? Maya?" "Open the door." "No." "What the hell are you doing?" reminding you who you're speaking to. A pause. Then, a quieter voice. This isn't how family works. I didn't flinch. Exactly. That's why it's working for the first time. And I hung up. The next day was Mom's birthday. Normally I'd send flowers, a cake, maybe even a spa voucher. She never said thank you, but I sent them anyway. This time, I sent nothing. No card, no delivery, not even a text. Instead, I sat in my office, sipping oolong tea and watching the clock tick toward noon. That was usually the time she'd call, pretending not to expect anything, but waiting, always waiting. No call came. But I wasn't surprised. Instead, a new email came in from Rent-Ease. Subject: unauthorized occupancy dispute. My eyebrows raised. I opened it. Inside was a scanned note, handwritten by my father. It had been taped to the front door of the house. This home belongs to the Delgado family. Any claims otherwise are false. I laughed out loud. Short, bitter, almost disbelieving. The same man who signed over the deed was now calling it a lie. But it didn't matter. The house didn't care who felt entitled. The city records didn't care about bruised egos. Paper didn't bend for pride. I called my lawyer. Send a formal notice of occupancy status. 30 days. Then eviction if necessary. He paused. Maya, you sure? I was. Give them the option to pay rent first. Fair market value, with a formal lease. He didn't argue. He'd seen my name on the paperwork for years. It was just never used. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Jordan again. But this time, he wasn't angry. He was panicking. Dad's calling a family meeting. He says you're trying to steal the house. I responded. He already gave it away. I just kept the receipt. Then came the group chat notification. A calendar invite. Family meeting. Saturday, 6 p.m. Mom's house. I stared at it. I didn't RSVP. I didn't need to. But I showed up. I parked 3 houses down and walked in with a folder under my arm. As I stepped through the front door, I noticed everything looked dimmer. The usual lights were replaced with cheap lamps. The AC was off, and the fridge was half open, a towel stuffed under the seal. Mom looked up from the dining table, eyes red. No makeup. No birthday glow. Dad stood at the head of the table like a general with no army. Jordan was pacing, anxious energy buzzing off him like static. I sat in the only empty chair, the one that was always left for me, the quiet one, the one they assumed wouldn't speak. I opened the folder, laid out the documents, the deed, the utility cancellation confirmations, the lease proposal. Nobody moved, nobody spoke, until I did. You told everyone I was trying to take something from you, but this house hasn't belonged to you since 2018. You just forgot to read the fine print on your own survival. Dad's fists clenched. Mom looked away. Jordan sank into a chair. This isn't revenge, I said. This is a reminder. Every luxury you enjoyed came with my silence. Now I'm just changing the volume. The room was so quiet you could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. Nobody touched the stack of documents I'd placed on the table. Not yet. They were afraid to. Mom finally spoke. Her voice was thin, cracking at the edges. Maya, you don't understand what this is doing to us. I looked at her. I do. It's showing you what it feels like to live without control over someone else's kindness. Dad slammed his palm on the table. You're punishing us for not inviting you to one party? I turned to him. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. From being used without thanks. From being forgotten until something breaks. From being a walking wallet with no name. Jordan scoffed. This is crazy. You're our sister. You don't charge family rent. I didn't flinch. I didn't for 5 years. And look how that turned out. I slid the lease proposal toward them. 1 page. Clear terms. Fair price. $3,200 per month. Way under market value. I'm giving you a choice, I said. Sign the lease, or vacate by the end of the month. Dad stood up. We're not signing anything. This is our home. I shrugged. Then the court can help you pack. Jordan looked between us. This is going to tear everything apart. I nodded slowly. It already did. You just didn't notice because I was too quiet to say anything. Mom reached for the lease. Her hand trembled. But she didn't pick it up. She just stared at it. Then she whispered something I didn't expect. Do you hate us? That stopped me. I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't manipulation. It was fear. I shook my head. No, I don't hate you. But I can't love people who only notice me when the lights go out. I stood, gathered my folder, left the lease behind. I'll give you till Friday. If I get no response, formal eviction starts Monday. I turned and walked out. No one followed me. No one shouted. No one begged. Because for the first time they realized something. I wasn't bluffing. I never had been. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. Notice prepared. We'll deliver in person if needed. I replied. Wait until Friday. When I got home, I opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for. A good day. I poured a glass, sat on my balcony, and watched the sun disappear behind the buildings. It didn't feel like victory. But it didn't feel like guilt either. It felt like clarity. Sharp, clean, and long overdue. They had finally heard me. Not through screaming. Not through tears. But through silence that echoed louder than anything I'd ever said before. Friday came. No lease. No message. No calls. I waited. I gave them every hour. Every opportunity. By noon, I sent a final reminder through email. Subject, lease decision deadline. 5 p.m. today. No reply. At 4:47 p.m., my phone rang. Not Mom. Not Dad. Jordan. Maya, can we meet? About what? Everything. Where? Your office. I agreed. Told him I had 30 minutes. Because I did. No more. No less. He arrived just before 5, out of breath. His suit was wrinkled. His tie crooked. But his eyes focused. Like someone who finally understood the stakes. I led him to the same glass conference room Dad sat in. Only this time, I didn't offer water. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. Set it on the table. The lease. Signed. All 3 names. Dad didn't want to, he said. I told him he didn't have to. But if he wanted to stay in that house, he'd better get used to living in reality. I raised an eyebrow. You convinced him? No, Jordan said. You did, without saying a word. I nodded, looked over the paper. It was real, legal, done. Payment starts next month, I said. No delays. If there's a late fee, it applies to all of you. He nodded, then hesitated. Maya, do you hate me too? I looked at him. Really looked. For a moment, I didn't see the golden child. I saw the scared boy underneath. No, I said. But you've been living in a world where you never had to think about anyone else. That ends now. He leaned back. Fair enough. Before he left, he looked around the office. You built all this? I nodded once. In silence. He looked ashamed. I thought you just did admin stuff. I know, I said. Everyone did. He paused at the door. Thanks for not kicking us out. I didn't say you're welcome. Because I wasn't. It wasn't a favor. It was a boundary. After he left, I filed the lease and sent it to Renties. Then I forwarded the digital copies to my lawyer. He replied instantly. Congratulations, you just became your parents' landlord. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because I got revenge, but because for the first time, I wasn't a background character in my own life. They signed the lease because they had no choice. But also because they finally realized I wasn't going to be quiet forever. And from now on, every month, when that rent hits my account, they'll be reminded. The quiet one owns the house. The quiet one pays the bills. The quiet one made it all possible. And she's not staying quiet anymore. 2 weeks passed. Rent cleared on the first day of the month. right on time. No delays, no notes, just a notification in my banking app that read, a CH transfer from Delgado family household, minus $3,200. I stared at the screen for a long moment, not smiling, not angry, just still. They'd never paid me anything before, not even attention. Now they were tenants. On paper. And by choice. I didn't reach out, didn't gloat, didn't ask how they were settling into their new reality, but they reached out to me. A card arrived at my office. Handwritten. From Mom. It read, "Maya, thank you for not giving up on us. I know we didn't deserve it, but I hope we can start over. Would you come to dinner this Sunday?" No emotional blackmail, no request for help, just a seat at the table, one they'd never offered before. I stared at the card for a while, turned it over, checked for guilt tucked between the lines. There was none. So I said yes. I didn't dress up, didn't buy anything, I just showed up. In a black sweater, flats, and a clear conscience. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light flickered on. The lawn looked recently trimmed. The windows were open. And for the first time, it didn't feel like walking into someone else's house. It felt like walking into mine. Jordan opened the door. He didn't joke, didn't smirk, just said hey, like a brother should. Inside, the table was already set. Real plates, napkins folded. Wine glasses, not the plastic kind they used on holidays. Mom stood in the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked up when she saw me. No tears, no apologies. Just, "Hi, honey, I'm glad you came." Dad was already seated at the head of the table. He didn't stand, didn't say much, but he nodded. Once. Like a man who finally read the fine print and accepted it. We ate in quiet. But not the uncomfortable kind. The peaceful kind. The kind where people chew slowly, pass plates, and speak only when it matters. Halfway through the meal, Jordan looked at me. "So, what exactly does your company do again?" I nearly choked on my wine. Not because of the question, but because it was the first time he'd ever asked. I told them about the logistics, the contracts, the silent partners, the warehouse expansion coming next fall. They listened. All of them. Really listened. When dessert came out, Mom leaned across the table. "I had no idea, Maya. We were so busy praising noise, we missed what quiet was building." I didn't respond right away, because there was nothing to fix. No final punchline, just a simple truth. The quiet one wasn't invisible anymore. She was at the head of the table, whether she sat there or not. A week after dinner, things felt different. Not fixed, not perfect, but real. I wasn't suddenly the golden child. There were no parades. No dramatic apologies with tearful music swelling in the background. Just space, just respect. And that was enough. The second rent payment arrived early, this time with a memo. For the roof repair. Thank you. 3 words. That meant more than 30 years of forgotten birthdays and empty praise. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I focused on me. I hired 2 new directors for the company. Booked a solo trip to Italy. Started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. My life expanded in the silence I used to shrink inside. Then one afternoon, Jordan dropped by my office. Unscheduled. Unshaky. He brought coffee. "Don't worry," he said, grinning. "I didn't put it on your tab." I laughed. And meant it. He sat across from me, watched as I reviewed logistics maps and shipment projections. "You really built all this," he said. "I thought you were just quiet because you had nothing to say. Turns out you were quiet because you didn't have to prove anything." I nodded. "It just took you 30 years to listen." He smirked. "Better late than never?" I gave a half smile. "That depends. Do you want your security deposit back when you move out someday?" He groaned. But it was the kind of groan that came with love. Respect. Growth. 2 months later, Mom sent me a message. A photo. A framed picture of us. Me, Jordan, Mom, and Dad, taken at that dinner. No captions, no filters, just us. I saved it to my phone. Didn't post it, didn't show anyone. But I looked at it more than once. Because for the first time, I was in the center, not physically, but in presence, in weight, in truth. They didn't love me because I was useful anymore. They were learning to love me even when I wasn't. One night, Dad sent a message. "Hope the Italy trip goes well. Send a postcard if you can." I stared at it for a while. It was short, awkward, sincere. I didn't send a postcard. I sent a framed copy of the lease agreement, signed, stamped, with a sticky note. Some things you don't get back. Some things you start over. Choose well. The day I left for Italy, I stood at the airport gate, sipping espresso, and I thought back to the girl they used to call the quiet one, the backup, the spare chair at the table. She never yelled, she never begged, she never fought to be seen. But she waited. And when the time came, she let the truth speak for itself. Because silence. Ach sei. Ach sei. Silence, when used right, is louder than any scream. And now? Balaya. They hear it every month. Every rent payment. Every pause between calls. Every time they walk through that door. And remember, the house they live in belongs to the one they never truly saw. Until she made it impossible to ignore. What do you think about Maya's decision? Was she too harsh, or was this the only way to truly protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories about complicated family.